Tonight, Politics Unplugged. We're here in New Hampshire. You're going to see the sound bites that you haven't heard, the ads that you haven't seen, and you're going to hear straight from the candidates and their most important supporters and 30 New Hampshire voters. So let's get right to it. The debates have been essential in this campaign. More people have watched the presidential debates in this election cycle than any up to now. And there's one candidate that's done better than the rest. Let's take a look.
I think this super committee is about as dumb an idea as Washington has come up with in my lifetime. I mean, they're going to walk in just before Thanksgiving and say, all right, we can shoot you in the head or cut off your right leg. Which do you prefer?
All of the Occupy movement starts with the premise that we all owe them everything. Now, that is a pretty good symptom of how much the left has collapsed as a moral system in this country and why you need to reassert something as simple as saying to them, go get a job right after you take a bath.
That there's too much attention paid by the press corps about the campaign minutia and not enough paid by the press corps to the basic ideas that distinguish us from Barack Obama.
Those were the best debate sound bites so far. Newt Gingrich, it's a pleasure to be here. Welcome, the former Speaker of the House. Was there something in your career that gave you that special capability that allows you to do so well in these forums?
Well, I think having been a teacher helped because I always wanted to reach out to my students and get them excited about what I was saying and excited about what I was doing. And I suspect serving in the House where you're allowed to open the day with a 1 minute, you get up and ask permission to address the House for 1 minute, and you learn to compress things maybe differently than senators do.
Now, we've been talking before you got here about these debates, and I got a question. How many of you have seen at least half a dozen of them? Raise your hands. See, this is New Hampshire for you. I got another question for you all. Is it the electability of the candidate or the philosophy of the candidate that matters most? Who says electability? Who says philosophy? So it's kind of split 50-50. Which one are you?
Both.
Why?
Well, because if you just try to elect somebody who doesn't believe anything, then while you might have defeated Obama, you haven't fixed Washington. And if you pick somebody who has the right philosophy but has a hopeless campaign, then you're not going to change the country. And so you've got to look for who combines an ability to explain our values and implement them with an ability to reach a majority of the American people, specifically in competing with Obama, which is why I think the debates will be so important in the fall.
So tell me, is he electable?
Yes. Yes.
How many of you say he is? Show of hands. Why do you think he's electable?
I think his experience in Washington, I think stands for the American people, makes him absolutely electable.
Yes, sir.
I think he brings us back to the Reagan conservatism, and that to me is extremely important.
In the very back, dead center.
I think he also knows how government runs and how he can work as president, where he was speaker before and he knew the ins and outs of Washington.
And John.
I also think that the speaker knows how to work as a team with the people on the other side of the aisle, and the man in there now does not.
Then I got to ask you, the numbers have deteriorated for you. They're not what they were a month ago. If they find you electable, why don't the polling numbers show it?
Well, I think take away 45% of the ads in Iowa that were negative, and the polling numbers would have shown it. And we're adjusting to this new reality, being much clearer in the contrast largely between me and Governor Romney. And I feel pretty good about where the campaign is and where we're going. This has always been his third best state after Utah and Massachusetts. So it's an uphill campaign. But even here in the last week, you can feel a momentum shift. You can see it in the town hall meetings and the gatherings we had, for example, at Wolfboro yesterday, with tremendous turnout of veterans. And I feel very good about it. And I think the two debates this weekend were very helpful.
How many of you have met him before? 2, 4, 6, 8. As you look at the campaign, has it been fair to him? And has he been effective? You're nodding your head no. Why not?
Mitt is up here constantly. I keep hearing all these attack ads from Ron Paul. Like, Newt Gingrich is really great. He hasn't been up here enough, I don't think.
Somebody else. You guys in the front row. Talk to me. Susan.
I think he's got a brilliant way to express himself. I just hope that he's able to get that across to people. I think he does an excellent job.
Is he able to get it across to people?
I think he needs to temper things a little bit, but still be strong in what he says.
To temper things?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good critique, actually. I'd agree with that. My grandmother would have agreed with that, too.
Joanne?
I also think some of these attack ads, if you responded to some of them a little bit more, I think, and just get rid of some of the myths, I think that would be very helpful to all of us because, you know, some of them are convincing even though they're not factual. And I think if you respond to them and say, okay, like you did last night, that's not true, when you said I wasn't eligible for the draft, would be great, you know. Please, you know.
I think that's right, and we had a lot less resources than Governor Romney. We were careful, and we also didn't want to get into a game where if we respond to ad number 1, there's ad number 2, and I mean, then they get us totally onto their message, and we're defensive. But I think you're right. There were 1 or 2 ads in particular. In retrospect, I wish we'd come back in much harder and taking them apart.
Now, there's a clip that I want to show them of you in today's NBC debate because it was particularly powerful. They dialed it. Let's take a look.
On theft alone, we could save $100 billion a year in Medicaid and Medicare if the federal government were competent. That's $1 trillion over 10 years, and the only people in pain would be crooks. So I think a sound approach is to actually improve the government, not punish the American people because of the failure of the political class to have any sense of cleverness.
You guys agree? Absolutely. So what do you cut? If you want to hold them accountable, if you think that Washington is failing you, which I know that you do, what do? You're the voters. Don't sit there. What do you do? Right there.
All right. In Bush's last budget, I think that was for 2008, the deficit was $458 billion.
Okay.
Now, we had 3 years of well over $1 trillion.
And your point is?
My point is it was not all from the so-called stimulus program. But what it was an increase of the bureaucracy of the federal government.
Go ahead.
It's really a quite solution, easy solution. You just implement 999, and that really fixes our economy right away.
Where have I heard that before?
Herman Cain would love you.
Yes, but notice that his picture is not sitting there behind me.
I think what needs to really be done is you need to take a look at every federal agency and go in there and get rid of almost all of them because they're useless.
It's a spending problem first. We got to get the spending under control and stop the wasteful spending and spending on things we don't need, like this newest consumer protection agency. I thought we already had one. Why isn't that being enhanced then?
We got to go to commercial. Before we do, how do we get spending under control?
You have to elect a Congress and a president who are committed to doing it. We did it in the 90s. We balanced the budget 4 straight years with a Democratic president and a Republican Congress. If you elect people who are willing to work together, you can get it done. It is very doable.
What do you cut first?
I think first you cut the crooks. I mean, this is not a hard problem.
Who are the crooks?
Well, there are about $100 billion a year stolen from Medicare and Medicaid. You bring in American Express, Visa, and MasterCard, you literally take out 99% of the theft.
And we're going to be coming back with a little bit more from Newt Gingrich. And you're going to see some of the most effective ads in the campaign, including the single best ad against Barack Obama, as well as the most popular United States senator, and so much more that I can't even remember. We'll be back in a moment. Thank you, guys.